Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode. This is the Networking RX. I'm your host, Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about the game, not the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the game, the Kevin Bacon game. Let me fill you in, give you a little background on this. In January 1994, while discussing the film The Wild River, Kevin Bacon mentioned in an interview with Premiere Magazine that he had worked with everyone in Hollywood or someone who'd worked with them. Basically, he was saying he was either connected to everybody in Hollywood directly or indirectly with everyone in Hollywood. Shortly after this, someone took the initiative to create a newsgroup thread, remember those, titled Kevin Bacon is the Center of the Universe. In this, people explored and discussed Kevin Bacon's connectivity to other professionals in the film industry. However, it was 4 Albright College students who claimed to have invented the game known as 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Apparently, after they had watched 2 movies featuring Kevin Bacon back to back, they watched Footloose and The Air Up There, they began to speculate on how many movies Kevin Bacon had been in and the number of people with whom he had worked. From there, at parties, they engaged in a silly little shtick. People would throw out the name of an actor, and then they'd connect them to Kevin Bacon in as few steps as possible. From here, these 4 students appeared on The Jon Stewart Show and The Howard Stern Show, and they got on there to explain the game. I think on one of those shows, Kevin Bacon was actually on the program. They also released a book called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and then this resulted in a company called Endless Games to release a board game based on this concept. Most importantly, this little party game generated actual scientific curiosity and created really a wonderful networking lesson for us. For those who don't know, and I'm not going to assume people know who Kevin Bacon is, Kevin Bacon's a popular American actor. The idea behind the game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon is to link any actor or actress to Kevin Bacon through the movies they've been in. For example, the Kevin Bacon number of an actor is the number of degrees of separation he or she has from Kevin Bacon. For example, Kevin Bacon himself has a Bacon number of 0. Duh, right? And those actors who've worked directly with Kevin Bacon have a Bacon number of 1. An actor who has not worked directly with Bacon but has worked with someone who has a number of 2. So the greater the number, the further the separation from Kevin Bacon. Let's quickly work an example. Let's use Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was in Change of Habit, which was made in 1969 with Edward Asner. Then Edward Asner was in JFK, which was made in 1991 with Kevin Bacon. Therefore, Asner has a Bacon number of 1, and Presley, who never appeared in a film with Bacon, has a Bacon number of 2. Nevertheless, here's where the science comes in. The popular culture buzz about the Kevin Bacon game led a computer scientist at the University of Virginia to build a program involving the Internet Movie Database. This computer scientist wanted to determine, on average, just how connected Kevin Bacon was. So he wrote a program, hit execute, and the computer program came back with that on average, Kevin Bacon was 2.8312 steps from any actor in the film industry. Now, this was done years ago, and it's important to note that that number is not static. It can and does change each time Bacon or really any particular actor does another movie. As hundreds of movies come out each year, the number is always changing. The computer scientist then ran the program for each and every actor in the Internet Movie Database. In so doing, he gave every actor a score, and from that was able to rank order the entire population of actors in the database. What he determined, and again, this was at that point in time and has changed since, what he determined at that point in time was that Kevin Bacon was not the center of the universe in Hollywood. In fact, he only ranked 668th amongst all actors. Among the top 50 were names such as Martin Sheen, Robert Mitchum, Gene Hackman, Donald Sutherland, Rod Steiger, and Shelley Winters. Intrigued by the results and wanting to pull meaning from what this computer scientist had found, social scientists began to dig into the numbers. One anomaly that jumped out at them was that the actor Burgess Meredith, who appeared in only 114 films, ranked in the top 20, while John Wayne, with a whopping 183 films to his credit, only ranked 160th. How could this be? John Wayne did almost 50% more movies than Burgess Meredith, but he wasn't even close to Burgess Meredith in the ranking. How can that be? Well, let's stop and let's look at the films that John Wayne appeared in. I went to the Internet Movie Database. It's the IMBD you'll probably see on the back of DVDs. John Wayne's first movie was in 1930. I'm not going to go through all his movies, but I'm going to give you a sampling of them. His first movie was in 1930, The Big Trail. Then he did Arizona, The Range Feud, The Shadow of the Eagle, Texas Cyclone, Move Ahead in Time, Ride 'Im Cowboy, going on, The Telegraph Trail, Somewhere in Sonora, Riders of Destiny, Sagebrush Trail. The point is that John Wayne appeared in a lot of movies. Most of the movies that he appeared in, a significant number of the movies, were a similar type. In fact, 50% of the movies were Westerns. They were Westerns, or they were World War II movies or Vietnam movies. Whereas Burgess Meredith, on the other hand, I looked him up in the Internet Movie Database as well. He started his career in 1935. He has got lots of different films that he's done. In 1935, he did The Scoundrel, and then he did Of Mice and Men. 1941, he did Tom, Dick, and Harry. Then he did Story of G.I. Joe, Salute to France. We know him best. I know him best because he was in the Rocky series, but that was late in his career. He did all sorts of different movies. If you go and you start looking through all these movies, The 11th Hour, which actually was a TV series. He was big in the Twilight Zone series. He did a Western, Wagon Trail, Rawhide, which was a TV series, did lots of TV movies. He was the Penguin in Batman, if you recall. He also was in The Monkees. He did so many different movies. Puff the Magic Dragon, Clash of the Titans, which was later in his career in 1981, True Confessions, Puff and the Incredible Mr. Nobody. He did lots and lots and lots of movies. Burgess Meredith appeared in fewer movies, but he had a greater variety of films. There were 42 dramas, 22 comedies, 8 adventures. There was action, documentary, science fiction, horror, western, thrillers, crime, children, romance, mysteries, and even did musicals and voiceovers for animated films. So here's the lesson, the takeaway from the Kevin Bacon game. If your network looks like Burgess Meredith's career, with lots of variety and diversity, you're probably doing great. But if your network resembles John Wayne's career, lots of connections, but from relatively few sources, you need to try and diversify. To diversify and maximize the networking potential in your life, you need to live in lots of different worlds. You need to be like Burgess Meredith. You need to do some dramas. You need to do some comedies. You need to do some adventure films. And I'm just drawing an analogy here. I'm not saying you need to be an actor. If you want to have the best possible network, you need to have great variety within that network. I look at myself, and it was probably around the year 2000, and I was really headlong into what is now AmSpirit Business Connections. And I was kind of pouring my professional life into it. Day in, day out, I'd be working with groups and working with chapters and trying to grow them. And I stopped and thought about it. And it really kind of scared me because it was like everything I did was wrapped up in this organization. While that was great, and I knew lots of people within this organization, that's kind of where it ended. And so I committed at that point that I was going to diversify myself, that I was going to try and find opportunities in lots of different places. I was going to get involved with things at church. I got involved with things with my kids' school and their sporting activities. I started to do lots of other things outside of what is now AmSpirit Business Connections to try and diversify my network. So stop and take a hard look at your network and really think about how many different worlds you're living in. And if it's just work, 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 you go to work, you hang with those people, you socialize with those people, you might want to back away from that a little bit. Not saying there's anything wrong with those people, but you might want to try and find different worlds that you can live in. Do some things with church, get involved in the community, get involved in your kids' school, because in the end, that's going to help you more than just living in one world. So the point is, to diversify and maximize the networking potential in your life, you need to live in lots of different worlds. Know people through your business or your career, become involved with trade associations, volunteer in your community, mingle with your neighbors, have a social life. Be like Burgess Meredith.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.